Hello my friends, and welcome back to my kitchen where the light is better and the video looks good. Today we'll be using these supplies. If you press the down arrow button, the supplies will be listed down in the description. I'm going to start with a handmade stone from the Happy Dotty Company mold that I purchased. If you don't have one of these, you can use a rock. You can paint anything. You could put the round circle for the moon and paint around it dark black or dark blue and put stars in the sky if you'd rather. So I'm going to base coat this with a sponge and a bright orange paint. I'm just going to paint the whole thing orange. The back side will be in the Alizarin Crimson and orange mixture because it'll give it a darker border along the very edge and it'll look really nice. Here we go. I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to do a few layers on this. It's going to have some yellow and Alizarin crimson to make it kind of look like a moon or a night sky. I'm using my blow dryer here. This will help speed up the drying of the paint. It doesn't take too long for it to dry when you use one of these. Then we can put on a second coat and start adding the other colors. Now that it is dry, I'm going to add a little bit of a second coat, put that wet paint on there so we can start blending in the yellow. I'm just going to dab the yellow on and blend it around. We don't want it to be really even or structured, but we're going to do a little bit more blending. I'm using a different sponge to put the darker color on because I'll be going back to the light sponge to do the blending. So I put a little more yellow and orange on my sponge just to blend in the Alizarin crimson to give it some shadows. This does go pretty quick. I just wanted to have a little bit of color variation in there. A little more yellow. I kind of want it to be a little bit bright so that the trees and everything will really stand out as we paint them on. But I'm keeping those dark shadows in now and not blending them anymore. Really getting that yellow to pop out. There's the finished product. I'm deciding which one I want to be at the top, and then I'm going to put a light coat of a matte finish on, because then if I make any mistakes I'll be able to wipe them off with a Q-tip. Then we start painting in the tree, and this is the branch that the raven is going to be actually sitting on. I'm going to paint some of the thinner branches on. We'll go to a thinner brush now. I'm going to add a branch to the branch to the branch. So I'm going to have a stick, and then I'm going to add 2 or 3 more branches to that, and I just keep adding branches to the end of each one. Right now I'm putting in the basic branches, and at the very end I'm going to go in and add a lot more sticks when I find out where the raven's actually going to be, and I'll be filling in the blank space at the end. So this is the branch that's going up in front of the raven. I love painting branches and I can never have enough. Be sure to overlap some of those branches. It'll give it some realistic form. Make sure also that your black paint isn't too thick. If it's a little bit thinner with water added to it, it'll make the lines easier to work with. And you start with the wide part of the branch, and then as you get towards the end where it's thinner, you start lifting your brush up off of the stone and your branches will get thinner. You can see some of them overlapping there. I got a little bit of black paint on the stone, and because I have that finish on there, it wipes right off with a wet Q-tip. There we go. I'm going to add one more branch. Some of these branches can go behind the raven, so if they're in the way, that's okay. You're just going to paint right over them. You'll see that in just a minute. Okay. Grabbing my number 2 pencil, and I'm very lightly going to draw in the raven where I want him to be. I do want his beak to be open a little bit, and I wanted this raven to look kind of macho, but it didn't work out really well. I'm so used to painting cute little animals. I will have a sample at the end of the video that shows another version of the raven. You can look at that one, and it looks a little bit more macho. We're going to just fill that raven in with black paint now. The tail will have kind of a scalloped tail so that it looks like he has feathers. And I'll go back and touch everything up in a little bit after I like the form that I have. I'm using a number 2 round for all of this part here, but right now I'm going to go to my number 1 round, and this brush is giving me a little bit of trouble. So in a couple minutes I'm actually going to scrub that beak off and repaint it with a number 1 liner brush, and it's a long liner brush because I can make thinner lines and go to a really wonderful point at the tip of his beak. I put a little bit of black with white to make a light gray to put the highlights on his back and to separate his wing from his body. His leg kind of has a little triangle shape where it's coming out of his body. And then I'm going to add his toes up above the branch where they're hanging on. It's solid right there, but I'm going to outline toes and make them visible with this light gray that I have made. It's really hard to see it here, but in real life you can see it pretty good. I'm just going back in between each one with black to make the lines thinner. There's my number 1 liner because I really don't like the way the beak turned out. I want it to be open more. I wanted the bottom beak to be a little bit wider. I'm trying to fix it here and it's just not working. So because I had put that Duracoat varnish on, look at this. I have a little bit of water on my Q-tip and I'm just going to scrub it off, and now I can repaint that beak with that liner brush. There. Now I have a sharp point and smooth lines. Yes, I like that a lot better. Okay. I'm going to make his eye bright white, but I'm going to fill most of it in with black. It'll have a little bit of the white showing in the bottom and a little bit up at the top. So I'm just kind of filling in the middle. My white paint is still wet, so I'm having to be kind of careful here. It's easier if you let that white paint dry a little bit longer than I did. See, I have a little bit of white on the bottom and a little dot up at the top, which makes it look like his eye. And then we go in and add more branches, and I am going to have them go up and behind him a little bit. And I'm going to keep adding more branches to fill in blank space until it looks the way I would like for it to look. You can put as many branches as you like. It can just be a few or it can be a lot. They don't have to be perfect, but it does help to keep adding a few of the thinner lines on the ends of each of the wider ones. I'm sorry, I do hold my rock when I'm putting these on because I love to keep those lines, my paintbrush, going down towards me in the same direction each time. Some people can make their brushes go up and down and across, but it's just easier for me to pull the brush towards me. I am being sure to crisscross some of these branches, just like a real tree would be. Crossing them over, making sure that they fill in. This is his tail, and I'm making the feathers. At the very end, I do put triple thick on, but I start with a coat of that varnish to make it nice and smooth, and triple thick will go on a little easier. I put 1 coat of this varnish on, and I put 3 coats of triple thick on. Here you can see that I did paint the back with the Alizarin Crimson and the orange blended together. Okay, so I put the varnish on the bottom, and then I start putting the triple thick on. That gives it a nice glossy finish, and it's very smooth in the very end. It's kind of like using resin art, but it's a whole lot easier. You have to put this stuff on quickly and not go over it too many times because it'll make the streaks. But there's the finished product. Now here's the other raven that looks a little bit more macho. I really like the colors in this one and the shape of the raven. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful week. Be blessed and hit that subscribe button.